says for life.
You're live.
We're live.
We're live.
Hello, everybody. Welcome. And thank you for joining us here on Facebook Live today. I'm Lorri Carey, founder and CEO of We Connect the Dots and Nebula Academy. We are live today to relaunch our online learning community, powered by Nebula Academy and We Connect the Dots. As a part of the relaunch of the community, we are incorporating live Facebook conversations to help inform our members and build awareness of the value of the online community for students, parents, and teachers. Nebula Academy and We Connect the Dots' mission is to address the digital divide, to ensure that everybody has the opportunity to learn these immersive learning programs, to have live instructor-led courses that teach coding and computer science skills. Not everybody can learn from watching videos, and Nebula Academy believes that these skills are important, and that it's like we look at it as it's the gym for your brain. Some people like to go to the gym to be in groups and collaborate with others, and we feel the same thing about learning. Learning is important for social, and this community allows students to do that. So we're here to support educators to build computer science capacity and skills, as well as parents seeking to support and engage their students in exciting learning programs. So we have two special guests with us today, Lorri Horn and Bryan Sanders, are co-founders of Re-Education, an education company focused on rethinking the relationship between teaching and learning. Dr. Bryan Sanders, who holds a doctorate in education and is a career classroom teacher in Los Angeles. Dr. Sanders researches and blends critical theory, technology, and constructivism into his work. And then we have Lorri Horn, an educator and the author of Dewey Fairchild Problem Solver book series. Her debut was selected for the Best Middle Grade Books of 2017, and they're now translated and released in China this year. Lorri has been a national board certified teacher, has a degree in English, a teaching credential, and a master's of education. Her work has appeared in the Huffington Post, Los Angeles Times, and many other education publications. Lorri's work is Lorri works both as an executive functioning coach with children and young adults, as well as an author. Lorri and I met through a mutual friend, and whose child received some services from Lorri through coaching, and which led me to utilizing Lorri to support our students through online coaching to build strong executive function skills. Cannot say enough about the great things Lorri has done with students and our work with her. We have Bryan and Lorri with us for the next 30 minutes, and we really want to have you part of the conversation, so we hope you enjoy the time with us. Please share your comments and posts as we want this conversation to include those watching on Facebook to be inclusive. So, Bryan, I'm going to pull you into this first topic here regarding how this crisis is turning education literally upside down. So students of all ages are experiencing using technologies in ways we've never utilized before. Kindergartners to seniors are online in their bedrooms, their living rooms, their kitchens, isolated in their homes with families, learning new skills and much more than we could imagine in this time of crisis. And so, Bryan, what are you seeing and what insights can you share as an educator in the middle of this shift to online learning?
Thank you. Yes. Gosh, there's so much going on. The one metaphor I hear from many different people and many different schools is that we're building the plane while flying the plane. And it's pretty accurate, I'd say. So much of what's going on, I see students that they're using new technologies while learning how to use new technologies. And really fascinating is to look at the ways that all of these information and communication technologies that are like what we're using right now here, using Zoom and streaming on Facebook. Kindergartners are now doing things like this. And, before that, a tool like this would be used by, I don't know, somebody maybe in their mid-20s, mid-30s. Yeah. And the research does show that, and this is something we've been trying to address in schools in particular, like how do we get the use of tech to be used by everybody, right? How do we get tech into the classroom and get it used in schools in all kinds of innovative ways? And we've really sort of fumbled at that internationally for years. In some of the research I've done, I've found this 1995 congressional hearing, and at that point, the experts in the room, so it's Dr. Seymour Papert, Dr. Chris Deedy, and Dr. Alan Kay. And they were in this congressional hearing for 3 or 4 hours. And from the outset, they said, okay, it's 1995 and we're already way behind. So here it is, 2020, and not a whole lot has shifted in terms of how schools and teachers and classrooms are using all kinds of new technologies that are now available. And then next thing we know, I think I just read this morning, 90% of the students worldwide are not in school today. 90%.
Yeah.
So what an amazing opportunity in the middle of this wild crisis. And, let's not make it too happy. I mean, people are getting sick and dying, right? But at the same time, educators are being called to work. Our jobs haven't ended.
This. Yeah. So I know, Lorri, I'm sure you have a lot to say about this. But reality is, we're kind of thrown in this mist. We still want education to continue. But we're asking our teachers to teach at home with their kids there. We're asking parents to work at home and teach their kids. So what are your thoughts on this?
Well, I see this through the lens of both as a constructivist educator, meaning that I'm always thinking about it in terms of what the child has to teach us and direct us in terms of their learning, and also my work as an executive functioning coach. And my best anecdote to start is how, for years I was a high school teacher, and then I took some time off to be with my son, and then I went back and I taught eighth grade. And when I taught eighth grade, I was stunned to discover how, if I didn't leave and build in, it took me time to figure it out, but I had to build into my classroom time 8 to 10 minutes of instructional time for them to clean up a classroom, which is something I would have imagined you would do with little kids, like first graders, second graders. But in fact, I had to do with eighth graders. And if I didn't do it, my classroom, each period would look like a bomb hit it. They didn't know how to put away their supplies. They didn't know how to pack up their bags, across the board. And it was so interesting to discover the difference between an eighth grader and a ninth grader that way, that developmentally, they just don't know how to do that. And that was so telling for me as a parent too, that all these ways that my son wasn't doing that was actually because he didn't really have the skills yet to do it. He needed to be instructed.
So let's translate that into what's going on today. Right?
Exactly. So that the translation of that into what's going on is that now you have kids who are home in front of a computer. And this is a whole skill set that needs to be taught explicitly. And furthermore, you have teachers who are going to need to be teachers as learners as well, because this is not necessarily a skill set that they've taught before or thought about explicitly. So it calls for the metacognition, the reflection of their own learning processes to go into play. What is it that they're doing in order to put their steps into place for kids, and to slow the whole process down of what they're teaching so that they have time to teach the steps involved for kids to do things. So they may not cover as much material.
Yes, so hold that thought for a second. So Bryan, that leads us to the stories. I work with schools all the time. We're in the field of supporting schools, and the biggest challenge obviously is inequity of an education. Right now, we've got these schools who some don't have laptops. But so think about the what's going on. What Lorri just spoke about, those skills, right? And think about what's going on with these classes where they have to mute the kids, and the kids are on Zoom like we are right now, and the teacher's trying to teach a concept or something, and they're trying to do what they normally do in that classroom, which is not going to work in this world, right? And some teachers have kind of, they get it, they know, they've experienced it because they've had more interaction with these types of tools, but not every educator, I would say the minority, knows how to do this, and the majority does not. So, what we're hearing in some crazy stories about kids who are trying to get their word in edgewise, and their teachers are muting all the kids, and the kid is dying because he's home or she's home all day long with their parents, starving for this attention, starving for the interaction with other kids and that social engagement. And now they've got this Zoom. Oh, great, I get to talk to my friends finally. I've been home with my parents and I'm going crazy. So now what's going on with this as a teacher? You're experiencing this. How are your classes going?
They are very, very different, to say the least. The thing that is coming up as a new idea today, this, for some younger students, looking at ways that we can figure out how to, maybe we're together, but maybe we're not, quote, doing class. Maybe we're not. Maybe this is an unstructured time, but we're live together so that we can check in or collaborate or test out, ways that we can just try to feel like, someone else is here with me from my class. But I think that's all very new. Like, and most of what, I'm on a bunch of email lists and Twitter lists, et cetera. And, everyone's just trying to figure out, okay, what's the best practice here? Like, how do I, keep things tame? And like, there's not a lot yet, and I expect it to start coming soon, like really experimenting with this new medium, because everyone's doing exactly what you're talking about, like muting and unmuting and trying to do lessons. But that again, see, that's where everything that I care about in education prior to this crisis, is, well, okay, so how can we rethink that relationship to teaching and learning? Like, why are we teaching what we're teaching? Like, we still have to ask these basic questions of, what is the purpose of the value of what a teacher or a textbook or an administrator or whoever decided, like, why was that decision made? And do we know what we're doing? And do we know what we're looking for in terms of student responses to the work? So that question has always been essential, but right now, it's the highest question, because we don't know what we're doing inside of these Zoom rooms or whatever technology. So we've been pushed to look at, okay, so we can be live together, say 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 2 hours, whatever the time is, but what are we doing with that time? If we're spending half of it dealing with muting and unmuting and all these, people changing their profile names, and it's like, we're just goofing around. We're not really actually using this to our advantage, this connection, to do anything purposeful.
Yeah, even if
So
if we even have a connection, right? So some of these kids are not even on.
Well, right.
They're using their cell
Right,
phones.
exactly.
And let's talk a little bit about the inequity that we see out there, Lorri, and how do we, support these students who are not able to get access to the technology. They don't have internet. They don't have, if they do have internet, it's not good rate bandwidth. We know that students are trying to be part of the learning experience and struggling to do so. And we've got this challenge with what schools have become today for families, not just for a learning environment. So Lorri, let's kind of go to you for a moment.
Yeah, well, I was just pulling up this article that I read yesterday in the Atlantic, and it just it had this great line in it that I thought was so important, which is that I was just looking for the author of it now. I'll find it for you. But the line in it is that pandemics are democratizing experiences, and I think that that holds true in a lot of ways. And the article was actually talking about it more in terms of issues of equity, in terms of privilege. Everybody gets sick. Everybody has to stay home. Doesn't matter, in those ways. But I think that the democratizing experience as it applies to education, I think, we see the schools rallying and making sure that children are getting lunches and meals.
It's pack and go. They come in, they grab their lunch, and they go back home.
That's right.
They're coming
But
in.
but there's really a pretty stunning experience for those children, which is that now they're called out, right?
Mhm.
Before, nobody knew who the children were who were getting lunches and who weren't getting lunches. And now children are in a position where they have to make a choice. Am I going to go and be known as a child who picks up a lunch, or am I going to not pick up my lunch? So there's already a shift that happens because of that.
Yeah, I was at the grocery store last night. I have to share this with you. I was at the grocery store last night, and I saw this woman filling her cart up, and she just looked at the person at the register and said, "I just didn't imagine I would need this much food. I've never had to feed my kids during the day."
Right.
So there's
Wow.
all these things
Exactly.
going on, right?
Right. So, but in addition to that, there's the issue of the schools make sure that hopefully every child has access to the technology, but then they're at home, and then the what that looks like, it takes many different forms, right? What kind of access do they have, and how many children are in the homes? And I think
And
Bryan can
what's
speak
home life
to
like
this.
at home too for some of these kids who the schools become a safety net for them, right? They can get food there, they can feel safe there, right?
Right.
And there may be situations at home that are not as good as the education experience being in this classroom. They're again, it's a safety place for them. And how do we know what's going on right now, right? What resources do they have? How do they let somebody know that things are not okay? You have those resources, and now we don't, right? So it's definitely a challenging things going on right now.
Yeah. There's a lot going on. I mean, I see educators everywhere really rallying behind this and trying to solve problems for the kids in their schools. And
While they're
it's
doing their
just
teaching their own kids and dealing with kids at
while they have their kids at home and whatever else is going on in their families at home, because you might have an internet connection, but maybe you don't have enough digital devices for everybody to be online doing work, adults doing work. If well, some people are out of work right now too, right? Or looking for work. So there's this need either way. Either you're looking for work online, or you're working online as an adult, and you're trying to work online as a kid in school. And so now we have all these. It's just an enormous number of things happening at once that have never really happened before during the
Right,
day
and then
at home.
and then the number of issues, like just in our own household, the number of issues that happen with technology, the number of times that I will call for help to help fix something, or my son is asking for help with his technology because he can't submit work, or because the technology has a glitch. And so those kinds of issues that are going on in households. And
Right.
so all of those things, I think, have this impact. And I think that if we don't address those as educators, if we don't make that part of the instruction with children overtly, then we miss an opportunity to really empower them, because that's part of the tapestry of what's going on. So
Right,
that's
what can
part of, I
educators
think, what
educators
has
doing?
to happen.
Right. So what can educators be doing? So we know, Bryan, that you and I have seen it too. We talked about this the other day. Is the worksheet, traditional worksheets that are getting sent home. And in some cases, they're doing the same thing that they were doing before. And some kids can see those worksheets and have access to them. Some can't. It depends on their internet. Teachers are trying to do shorter, smaller videos so that they can do some instruction that way. But if you don't have internet access, you can't get to that. So what could we be doing, or what can teachers be doing, and what can parents be doing to make this, to learn from this experience and figure out a way to address some of these challenges in the moment, right? In the moment, what can they be doing now as an educator? Let's talk about the educator first.
So my buddy's behind me here, right? So mean, children's television workshop is probably one of the greatest human inventions in the age of television and technology. And, I think that we can look to what Sesame Street did and what Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood did and what Electric Company did as reference points to guide us as educators, because they weren't live, right? So everything obviously was taped and written in advance and rehearsed
Scripted and everything, right?
yeah. So we don't have that kind of time. However, we can do some of those kinds of lessons or ways of approaching things live. And from the beginning of when it was clear that we were going to stay home and that face-to-face class would not happen, it was clear to me, and that, well, the answer is go live. And obviously, a small percentage of people are okay with doing that just like that. Like, they have to really think about, do I want to be in front of the camera live on the internet? But I think it's the answer, because then we can just be real. We can just, we can have, hopefully all the security and privacy is set up by, tech admin correctly, so that there's no Zoom bombing. Everyone's talking about Zoom bombing these days. So, there are ways to protect the online classroom. So assuming that that's in place correctly, and of course, assuming that kids are attending online, we can just do this. We can talk, we can share things. I can share my screen. I can do things live. I can show the process of thinking, like, that's the greatest opportunity. Like, so much of what I was doing in the classroom was trying to show, how do I think about an idea, or how do I even come up with an idea, or how do I get inspiration from one object or some work that somebody else did, and then take that to the next level, where I turn it into a learning objective, and then turn it into a lesson plan, and then turn it into a series of lessons, then to a unit. Well, guess what? I don't have that kind of time. Just do it live.
Yeah, I think that right now is a great opportunity for teachers to rethink their teaching approach, and how to teach kids to be lifelong learners, to be independent learners, and what are the skills they need to do that. I think that this is a great opportunity for that, and hopefully we learn. I want to be respectful of time. We're almost out of time here. I do want to share a couple things before we depart with everybody. We're going to share our screen here quickly, and bring up our online community, so that everybody can see how they can get access to that, what the value of that community is, and just everybody knows who's listening, this new community is a great way for you to collaborate with others, and Lorri and Bryan are both a part of this community. And so we want to kind of show you guys a little bit of what that looks like. And so I'm just going to minimize that here. And let's take a look at the groups that we have in here. And again, this is an online learning community where if we go ahead and look at the groups itself, here we go. Thank you, Anam. And so you can see in here, this is a private community. So it's by invitation only. You have to ask to be invited into it, and that's intentional. Anybody 13 years and older can join this community. That's really what this is about. And it's live instructor led courses going on in this community. So students who want to learn to code, but they just don't feel like they can just watch a video to do that. They want some help. They can come in here. We have a lot of people involved in supporting this community, and teachers, if you need to come in here and you want to get some tips and tricks, you want to talk about executive functioning with Lorri, and or tips and tricks teaching the classroom in a new way with Bryan, that's what this is about. And if you want to share and be a part of contributing to the community, we encourage that. Again, it is by invitation only. If you'd like to join the community, you can send an email to succeed@nebulaacademyny.com, and we'll send you off an invite coming from our community. And you will be able to invite others into the community. And we have some great promotions going on, so that we're giving away some great prizes. If you like the community and you want to invite others, it's simple. You simply go to All Network and you put somebody else's email address that you'd like to invite into the community. We do ask that everybody who comes in the community has to sign a usage policy of what this community is about. We hold that and take that seriously. Again, this is a place for a safe place to learn and to collaborate with others, and to share your insight, and to learn how to learn. This is really an exciting opportunity. So we encourage you to come in and join us and be a part of this learning environment. And learn, parents, you want to learn how to teach your kids how to code with drag and drop, we'll help you do that. If you want to get some hardware and have some hardware at home, like a drone, and teach your kids how to code with droning, we'll help you do that. If you want to work with our instructors to learn how to do this, we are here to support your efforts. There's nothing like teaching kids to code with a little bit of hardware, especially in this situation we're in right now, where you just need to do some fun, interactive things with your kids. So we want to be a part of helping you to change the dynamics of the learning experience, along with Lorri and Bryan. So thank you again for joining us. You can visit us at nebulaacademy.com. Again, and join our community through Succeed at nebulaacademyny.com to get an invitation to that. I want to thank Lorri and Bryan for joining us. We are going to be holding another call next Friday, April 3rd at 7:30 p.m. And it is going to be a educator happy hour. So bring your glass of wine, bring your coffee, tea, whatever you want. Join us at 7:30 Eastern Standard Time. And we will be chatting with educators across the country via Facebook Live and hearing from you how you're holding up. We're going to probably laugh and cry, a little bit of everything, and that opportunity to just really share and engage and support you in whatever way we can. So thanks again for joining us, and have a wonderful rest of your day. And we're signing off.
Thank you.
Nebula.
Thank you.
Thank you.